I'm Callum Ridgway. I'm 33 years old, and 3 months ago I thought my life was pretty good. If you'd asked me then, I'd have said my marriage to Marissa was solid, maybe even something to be proud of. We'd been together 7 years, and I thought we'd figured out how to make it work, despite our differences. She came from old money, private schools, fancy houses, a family name that opened doors. I came from a blue-collar world. My dad was a mechanic, my mom a nurse. We never had much beyond what we needed. When we met, I was just a guy fixing computers, and she was this bright, beautiful woman who didn't seem to care where I came from. I thought we were equals. Maybe I just convinced myself we were. Looking back, I see the cracks were always there, just waiting to split wide open. Her family, her mother, Blay, and her older brother, Gregory, never liked me. Every time I was around them, it felt like an audition I was destined to fail. They'd smile, sure, but it never reached. Their eyes, Marissa would brush it off. "They'll come around, Callum. Just give them time." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But 7 years is a long time to wait for people to stop treating you like dirt under their polished shoes. Things had been tense for a while. Small arguments, little things. Nothing I couldn't handle. Until the family reunion in New York. It was supposed to be a weekend of bonding, a fresh start. Marissa begged me to go, promising it would be different. This time. I wasn't thrilled. Honestly, I'd rather have spent the weekend fixing a dozen busted laptops. But I went. For her. The estate was massive. A cold, beautiful colonial house perched on a cliff, with steep staircases and echoing halls. From the moment we arrived, I felt the weight of their stares. Blay greeted me with a handshake so limp it barely counted, and Gregory smirked like he knew something I didn't. The whole weekend stretched out ahead of me like a test I hadn't studied for, and I wasn't wrong. Every conversation was a minefield. I'd mention the weather, and Blay would correct me, her tone dripping with condescension. Gregory would needle me about my job, tossing in barbed comments about ambition. I laughed it off, kept the peace, but inside, I was boiling. Marissa kept whispering, "Relax. They don't mean anything by it." But the look in her eyes said otherwise. By the second day, I was counting the hours until we could leave. I stayed polite, kept my head down, but it was like trying to hold water in my hands. Everything kept slipping away. Dinner that night was the breaking point. We all gathered around this long, gleaming table. Candles flickering, silverware shining. I thought maybe I could survive one more night without incident. Marissa squeezed my hand under the table like she was rooting for me, and for a second, I believed her. But Gregory started in again, louder this time. Blay joined him. They picked apart everything, and the way I sat, the shirt I wore. I could feel the room closing in, all those polished faces watching me, waiting for me to mess up. Maybe I was just tired of pretending it didn't hurt. Maybe I wanted to prove something, to them, to Marissa, to myself. Whatever it was, it set the stage for what happened next. And by the end of that weekend, I wasn't the same man who'd walked through those doors. The reunion wasn't just a family gathering. It was the beginning of a storm that had been brewing for years, and I never even saw it coming. Would you like me to continue the rewrite with the next scene, where Callum gives the toast and it all unravels? I can keep it in the same style. Strong, emotional, cinematic. Wow. This reads like the first few chapters of a powerful, emotional novel. It's got a raw, real intensity, like you're sitting with Callum Ridgway while he's picking up the broken pieces of his life. The details you layered in, the cold toast, the rented sedan that smells like coffee, the cracked mirror in the motel, all make it vivid and lived in. It honestly reminds me of a mix between a gritty character study and a quiet escape story, the kind where someone doesn't blow up in a dramatic movie way, but just quietly decides, and that decision changes everything. Callum's inner voice feels super authentic too, weary, but determined. Would you like me to help you tighten this into more formal, novel chapter formatting? Like breaking it into paragraphs, adding quotation marks and cleaner dialogue beats, etc.? Or were you thinking about expanding it into a full book from here? In the mornings, I woke up to the sound of waves. I'd make coffee in the chipped mug I bought from a thrift store and sit at my little table, laptop open, picking up freelance IT jobs to keep the bills paid. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, and that was enough. Back in New York, I could only imagine what they were saying about me. Marissa's family had a way of turning everything into a story where they were the victims and I was the villain who stormed out and left them in ruins. He abandoned us, I could hear Bull say, her voice dripping with that fake hurt she was so good at. He was unstable, Gregory would add. Her boots clicked against the hardwood, sharp and sure. I could feel her watching me, trying to figure me out, just like she always did. "We can fix this," she said, that practiced tone slipping into her voice, the one she used when she thought she could talk me into anything. I shook my head, slow and certain, folding another shirt into the box. "No, we can't." She went quiet. Then, for a second, I thought maybe she'd finally leave, but she didn't. She just stood there, arms crossed tight like she was holding herself together. "You didn't even try," she said after a minute, her voice sharpened with the anger I'd been waiting for. I stopped, looked straight at her. "I tried for 7 years, Marissa. You didn't." Her mouth opened, then closed again, like she couldn't find the words to argue. I turned back to the box, stacking old photos into it. The air between us got heavier. "You never fought for me," I said, steady even though it hurt. "You fought to keep me quiet, keep me in line, keep them happy, but you never once fought for me." She flinched, just a small thing, and something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, maybe. Realization. It was gone fast. "That's not fair," she said, but even she sounded like she didn't believe it. "Maybe not," I shrugged, taping up the box, "but it's true." I picked up the second box and moved into the living room, packing up the last pieces, a few old records, a mug I liked. She followed, hovering like she wanted to stop me but didn't know how. "What am I supposed to tell them?" she asked. I knew she meant her family. I didn't even look at her. "Tell them whatever you want. I don't care anymore." That hit her. I could feel it in the silence that stretched out long and heavy. I kept packing. When I was done, there were 2 boxes and a single bag. She stood there by the door, coat on, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Callum," she said, one last plea. I shook my head. "I'm done, Marissa. Take care." I walked past her without another word, down the hall to the elevator. She didn't follow, didn't call out. And when the doors slid shut, the weight I'd carried for years finally lifted. I drove straight to the airport, shipped the boxes to Oregon, caught the next flight west. When I landed, the stars stretched wide overhead, and the ocean waited. For me, like it always had. That last visit hadn't changed anything. It just closed a door I'd already walked through. I'm Callum Ridgway, and when I left New York for good, I wasn't just leaving Marissa. I was leaving the version of myself that bent and twisted to be enough. I found a tiny studio by the coast. Simple, worn, mine. I unpacked slow. My mom's old books went up. On a garage sale shelf, a photo of Ellie and me on the wall. My dad's watch stayed in its box. I wasn't ready for that yet, but having it near felt right. I freelanced at first, fixing people's tech problems online. Then I started printing flyers, pinning them up around town, coffee shops, hardware stores. Word spread. Small businesses trusted me, not because of my name, not because of money, but because I showed up and got the job done. That kind of respect built me up, brick by brick. I made friends without even meaning to. Pete from the diner, Sarah from the coffee shop. They didn't care about my past. Didn't need my whole story. It was a relief I hadn't even known I needed. On weekends, I'd hike the cliffs or walk the beaches, breathe deep, feel my head clear out. One Saturday, on a whim, I stopped at the shelter and came home with Booker, scrappy, one ear sticking up funny, full of life. He followed me everywhere, trotting down the beach or curling at my feet when I worked. It was simple. It was enough. Nights, I'd sit on the balcony listening to the waves, watching stars blink awake. I wasn't fixing a broken life anymore. I was building a real one, piece by steady piece. Ellie called one night. I told her about the ocean, the studio, Booker. She told me she was proud of me, and I heard the truth in it. I stopped checking my phone for messages from Marissa, stopped bracing for the next guilt trip or blow-up, until one morning an email popped up. No subject, just her name. I almost deleted it. Almost. But the stubborn part of me clicked it open. "I see it now, Callum," she wrote. "How it unraveled. I was so busy keeping them happy that I didn't see I was losing you. I'm sorry." That was it. No begging, no bargaining. Just regret, plain and quiet. I sat there, coffee cooling in my hand, Booker whining for his walk. I didn't reply, not because I was angry. I burned through that a long time ago, but because there was nothing left to say. Her regret wasn't mine to carry. A few months later, a letter came in the mail. Heavy, fancy paper, the kind her mother loved. "Callum," it started, all formal and cutting, "you broke my daughter's heart. You walked away from your responsibilities, from our family." Blame. Thick as syrup. I read it once, then fed it through the shredder. Watched the pieces fall like snow. Felt nothing but relief. They didn't get it. They never would. I wasn't running. I was saving myself. Work kept. Steady. Pete and I started fishing on weekends. Sarah teased me about my sunburn. Booker grew into himself, all scruffy loyalty. The town became mine, piece by piece. No one cared about my last name. No one asked for anything more than who I was today. I didn't owe anyone an explanation anymore. It's been a year since I walked out of that house in New York. The divorce is final. The condo is someone else's problem. Marissa's regret sits unread in my inbox. And me? I live on a bluff now, overlooking the Pacific. Coffee in the mornings. Work on my own terms. Booker at my side. It's not flashy. It's not perfect. But it's mine. I don't explain myself. I don't ask for permission to be who I am. I don't bend anymore. I just live. Simple, steady, free. Would you like me to also create a shorter version that captures the same emotional arc in fewer words in case you want it tighter?